Hey, how's it going?
Hey, buddy. Can you hear me?
Can hear you just great.
That's good. Would you look at her? She looks at me. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
So, just
What?
to be clear, I haven't seen I didn't watch your debate, which I
No,
would
it's okay.
really
It's
would
okay.
really like to. That sounds like a fire
It
lineup.
was impromptu. It wasn't even scheduled.
Yeah, that's
Literally,
sick.
I was getting ready for a pub crawl with friends, and I had some free time, and Pisco was already in Destiny's stream, and there were some
Mhm.
things I wanted to pick his brain about. And so, yeah. Yeah. But so I'll provide all the context. I think it'll be interesting to see what your take on it is, because I imagine you're going to hew more closely to being an institutional shill like Destiny
Hey,
than
oh,
yay. So we can fight by proxy.
okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm just a proxy Destiny, apparently.
Basically, you have the
Yeah.
same animal magnetism. You use fewer f words, and that's basically
True.
it. And
True.
really, honestly, it's close. It's really close between you two in that respect.
At least I don't have like red pill nonsense people just occupying my area constantly.
Well, give it time. I'm sure.
True.
You
True.
know. So I'm just setting everything up here.
Yeah, sounds good. But
So
I did watch Gavin Newsom's interview. I don't know
which
if I watched
one?
the full interview. I think I just watched part one.
Which one? Because he did. So I gave you two links. One was his Big Sean Hannity interview, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
And then he did one with Alex Michelson, the
Oh,
issue is
did
guy.
not watch
Look,
that.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I've not seen them all either. So it's like a journey, man, that we're gonna be taking together. You know what I mean?
For sure. No, totally.
Do you get that? Hey, do me a favor, type in a restream chat and just test it.
I don't. I might
Like
be an
test.
idiot.
Well, no, there is no might. You are quite
Where?
certainly an idiot. But again, you're here basically for eye candy anyway.
No, I know.
So
It's. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Where into the chat?
So type like a comment on. Try on one of your like your Twitch or your YouTube or whatever. I want to see if it pops up on the right like it used to. You're going to be my test dummy.
Hold on.
So you use your keyboard, right?
Yeah,
So that's how
I
you
know.
type.
But here's the thing. One sec.
Yeah, so the keyboard is the thing with all the
No, I
letters
know.
and
But here's
numbers.
the
No,
thing.
I don't think you do, honestly. I don't think you're
But
very
here's the thing.
bright.
I don't have on my right hand side just like a thing to do, so I have to go into like my Twitch.
I swear, man. Like I
Oh,
don't
God damn
know.
it.
I don't even know what we're doing here. Honestly, I really don't. I thought that this was going to be way more professional. See, like I do a thing with Luke Beasley once a week,
Yeah,
and he's got it together. But you, on the other hand,
I
you just
know.
like you don't know what keyboards are. Were you at a magic thing? Hey, you found it. It's working. All right,
I hate
cool.
you.
Oh, and it says like even on the side. I don't know if you noticed this. Like, well, no, it says on my chat function that you are paired. We're paired
It's so cute.
right here.
I love
Hey, buddy.
it.
Oh,
Oh,
no,
mine's.
Jesus. What
Hold
kind
on.
of malformed heart is this? There we
There
go.
you
Look at
go.
that. That's
Beautiful.
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 All right.
It's so cute. When do you do your thing with Luke Beasley?
So Luke Beasley, my good buddy,
Yeah.
who is just like he's popping off, bro. He's popping off. He and I
Yeah.
do. It is through Restream, but it's like for his channel, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like a guest host, that like a co-host, a co-pilot, if you will.
Uh-huh.
And we do like once a week. We do. It's political news. So he has a channel. You're familiar with. It's like David Pakman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that we're resurrecting what you and I do, it's almost like a different thing where it's not so much news as it is like political or philosophical topics. Like you and I aren't just going to be discussing like, the latest breaking political news, unless it's something like the Trump indictment, right? We're going to be discussing, like Cornel West running for president. That is political news. It's obviously not, earth shattering the way the indictment is, or even this Gavin Newsom, Sean Hannity thing. It's not, Gavin Newsom isn't running for president. The interview is like a week old, but I have not had time with another person to really go in and unpack it.
For sure.
So I like that we're going to kind of go into the weeds on very niche things, and we'll see what happens with it. So
Yeah, no, I'm excited. It sounds good.
no, I'm excited. I wonder which of us are more excited.
When do you do it though? When do you do with because I might tune in sometimes.
It's not live.
Oh, I see.
But wait, what do you mean sometimes? Number one, you were under the assumption it was live, and number two, you were gonna like maybe occasionally pop in. Maybe. No.
I don't understand. I would watch and I would comment.
You said maybe. You thought that it was a live thing, and you were like, "Hey, listen, every now and then, occasionally, if I've got nothing else going on," which, by the way, you don't. I might pop in for 5 minutes just
not
to
pop
support
in.
you.
I would pop in the comments, right? I'm not.
No,
I'm not
I mean when I mean pop in, I mean like you would watch occasionally.
Yeah.
Like it's you know what it is. It's kind of like having a partner, girlfriend, wife, child, whatever it is, and like, hey, listen, what's your sports schedule? Because I might occasionally show up to a game for 5 minutes, and then I'll leave and go do something else.
Real quick,
yeah.
How often do you watch? What's the last TikTok that you've watched?
I'm not on TikTok anymore.
Exactly,
I'm not. It has nothing to do with you.
Thank you.
You are constantly on.
No, the
YouTube.
only place where I'm doing well, I understand you can't support me there, and it's okay. I love it. I respect it.
I try to get you onto, by the way, everybody, please follow Staxioms on TikTok. It's basically the only thing he cares about. He clearly has no regard for his friends. So whatever. I'm not even bitter.
I would love. I'm trying to move over to YouTube, but I post a TikTok and it gets like 200,000 views, and then I post it on YouTube and I get 30 views.
You are like the instant gratification machine. That's all it is about.
I'm still working on it. I'm just saying, like, I'm still posting stuff to YouTube. I'm just saying, it's a little bit. I'll post a TikTok way before I'll post a YouTube.
Yeah, I know, and that has to change for you to break into YouTube. No, it's not about you trying. It's like, okay.
I just posted a video.
We'll get into that for a second. Why are you yelling at me when I'm yelling at you? So don't interrupt my yelling time. It's like the great Jedi Master Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. And you are just like coming back with, I'm going to try, Master Yoda. I'm going to try. Everybody, please follow Staxioms on YouTube. He just dropped a video called And Yet. And it's really good. So it's and listen, I'm not going to have you describe it because I don't think you know it very well. Okay.
True.
Sure. You wrote it and starred in it, but basically it's like a 20-minute. What was the final breakdown? Because I thought the first video was about 20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes, 21 minutes.
Damn. Okay. I want to make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
And basically there's like a how do I want to phrase this? Because I'm not philosophically grounded. Would it be fair to say that it's supposed to be evocative of Sisyphus?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, you got it. It's literally this is so. That's so unimpressive. I mentioned like the myth of Sisyphus throughout like the entire video.
It's all you talk about.
And
no, you don't. You mentioned it one time.
The thumbnail is literally a picture of Sisyphus. So
it's literally not, because I think there's like text on it too. So no, yeah, you misused the word literally.
True.
Guys, Stax is really dumb, but you should follow him anyway.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's my video is about absurdism and how it can apply to politics in your real life. That's what it's about. Please go watch it.
It's really, really good. It's very well. It's and it's not like, how do I phrase this? Chatula says, greetings from Prague. Hello, Prague. And Chatula. It's probably a bot, but I hope not. I hope we actually have a wide Prague audience. It's not like a dry dissertation or anything like that. It's almost like a skit and like a theatrical monologue. Stax, you have like really good acting chops too. He's actually a Renaissance man, so he won't brag about this, but he is also really good with music too.
True.
He's a good music producer, a lyricist, a rapper. I think it's fair to say.
I don't want to drop my
okay.
rap album that I made it when I was like fucking 13. Not 13, like 17, I think.
Okay, but, well, it was pretty good. It was like it's not kids bop rap either. Like
I showed it to Josiah and no one else. No one else is allowed to see.
No one's allowed. You haven't even showed Sherbs.
No, Sherbs. My girlfriend has seen it.
Okay.
Yeah,
and she still dates you.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Oh man, too funny. Chatula says that he or she is not a bot. I don't know what your pronouns are, but Chatula says that they are not a bot. That's good. Sure. That's exactly what a bot would say, Chitula.
True.
Exactly. I'm on to you, Chitula. So, I think that I'll go first because
Yeah,
you're
sure.
clearly going to need like a lot of prep time. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'll just ignore what you're saying while you're saying it.
That's basically what you do throughout our entire friendship anyway. You ignore
No, yeah.
everything that I say because you just don't care about me. It's fine.
She.
She.
Chatula is a she.
She. Okay. So listen, here's the skinny on this. All right. So I saw this tweet from Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island, who, by the way, is one of my very favorites. Now, you who go for the low hanging fruit of culture war nonsense, you don't pay attention to politics, but the Senate is one of two chambers.
Interesting. What's the other chamber?
Yeah, you're like, what's a chamber? That's so fun. Listen, having been educated in Kentucky, I don't think I can talk smack about your upbringing at all.
Yeah.
But Sheldon White, are you familiar with him?
No, I don't think so.
So
Senator
real
from
talk,
Rhode Island.
yeah.
Okay.
So he's phenomenal. I would encourage you to, like, if you start, especially as the 2024 election starts, coming in earnest. He obviously he's not running, but he is like a major player in the Democratic Party in terms of sitting senators. He was like the former attorney general for Rhode Island. He's been a senator, I think, since 2007. He's really, really good, really, really smart. He's one of the best debaters and debunkers in Congress alongside, like Jamie Raskin in the House of Representatives. He's really, really good. So he serves on the Judiciary Committee. And basically his two pet projects, like his two theses in life, are climate change is real. We got to get serious about it. Republicans are a major obstacle in this respect, and they're, whatever. And his second thesis concerns, of course, because he's an attorney and he serves on the Senate Judiciary Committee, is about, checking the renegade Supreme Court and dark money in politics, the Heritage Foundation, or not the Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society, which is the conservative judicial activist group, which basically has given McConnell and George W. Bush and everybody for decades their list of judges. Like, hey, if you get a vacancy, get this young radical conservative in that vacancy, right? So,
for sure.
So anyway, that's some background on Sheldon Whitehouse. Well, he made a tweet recently because there's an ongoing, I don't want to say scandal. What's the word I'm looking for, Stax? But there's
controversy?
Controversy, I guess would be good. About
Dianne Feinstein?
Yes. Now, you are familiar with her, right?
Yeah, so just so everyone is aware of essentially what happened. So I don't know exactly what Josiah is here to talk about necessarily. So this might not be.
And you honestly don't even care.
Yeah, true.
Right. So,
but basically,
please.
Dianne Feinstein was so she. I think she was sick with something.
Shingles.
She was out. Shingles. Gotcha. And she was out from the floor. She had to go home and get like surgery or medical care of some sort for, I want to say, like a month and a half. Is that about right?
Yes.
Josiah? Yeah, about a month and a half. And so she returns and she got interviewed by some news organization or something like that. And basically saying, hey, where have you been? And she's like, what do you mean? I've been here. And we're like, wait, what the hell is she talking? Like, she seems off her rocker. She seems a little bit like deeply mentally unwell, like she's falling apart. And people are concerned about the fact that she is a, sitting congresswoman.
She's also 89 years. So it's actually, yes. Yeah. So that is relevant to what I was going to discuss. So yes, she had an acute medical condition, shingles, which is bad enough. And it took her out of commission. She literally had to go home and recover for months. All right. She's also 89 years old, and credible reporting for the last couple of years, not just from Republicans, but Democrats as well, is that she is in a state of severe cognitive decline. It's like a twofer, right?
Yeah.
So she represents California, and the standing rules are, and this is, I'm pretty sure, I'm 90% sure this is the case in all the 50 states. If a senator dies in office or resigns, right? So if Senator Feinstein took a turn for the worse, or if she chose to resign because of her health, her replacement would be appointed by the governor of her state, which in this case is Gavin Newsom, right?
Yeah.
So he would be able to appoint pretty much unilaterally whoever he wanted, which I imagine he would go for a young progressive, right? Which would be great. So a lot of people wanted Feinstein to resign. Actually, a lot of people didn't want her to run for re-election in the first place, right? Because some of these
Yeah,
reports have been coming in and her age and whatnot.
for a
Then she
while. Yeah.
ran and she got reelected. And so they were like, okay, well, with all this going on, resign.
I will say this is probably the most extreme case where she just like flatly doesn't remember the last month and a half. Like this has been the biggest signifier of like
Yeah. I mean, compared, well, I
severe
mean,
cognitive decay.
well, yes and no. There have been, and I don't have the specifics. I do know for a while there have been, again, credible, like secondhand pieces of information, like she doesn't remember conversations that she's had with people, even though it's like
Sure.
5 minutes ago yet. This one was so bad, though, because it was caught on tape. She
Yeah.
actually said it to a reporter, so it's
Yeah.
firsthand information shared with the country. But anyway, she ran for re-election. She got reelected. And then when all this started happening, progressives and Democrats, including myself initially, are like, oh, for the love of God, lady, for your own health, for your legacy, for the sake of precarious Democratic control of the Senate, please resign so
Mm.
Newsom can replace you with somebody else. Then Sheldon Whitehouse kind of, because he serves on the Judiciary Committee with Feinstein. Silver Seto says meep, bork, meep. I have no idea who that is, but maybe it's
I
a
don't
bot
either.
too. Or maybe it's also one of our many fans, one of our 8 fans from Prague.
Yeah.
But
or my TikTok followers.
wait,
My
no,
35,000.
35,000. Oh my
I don't
goodness.
know how many it is. It's over 30 though.
You liar. He watches that number every
It's
single
over
day.
30. That's all I can say.
No, I don't
Go
believe
ahead.
you. I believe it. Like when you wake up, the first thing you do before you like kiss Sherbs good morning, you pull out your phone, you go to TikTok, and you're like, oh yeah, 37,200 right there.
I have a little app, a secondary app that just tracks the up and the down and like
I
when
believe
people
that.
follow
I
and
like you
unfollow.
say that
Yeah.
as a joke, but like knowing you, I believe that. That's all he cares about. If I were dangling off the side of a cliff,
Yeah.
and so was your phone with just a screenshot of your TikTok follower count, and you could only save one, you would save your phone. You would just
Yeah.
drop me. Yeah.
I mean, my phone has everything on it, and you are just a person. So
I should be everything.
you're not.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Cami says Biden stands must be popular in Chechnya. Yes, it's true. It's true. All right. So Feinstein. Okay. So we were all pushing for her to resign, right? Please just quit. All right. And Sheldon Whitehouse kind of burst our bubble because he was interviewed by Jake Tapper, and Jake Tapper's like, look, you're getting called out by your constituents. You're getting called out by other Democrats. AOC is like, guys, get her out of here. It's not good for her. It's not good for Democratic control of the Senate. And Sheldon Whitehouse pointed out, if Feinstein were to resign from the Senate or even just the Judiciary Committee, because you can quit committee assignments, Republicans would have to approve her replacement. It would either have to be unanimous consent in which there are literally no objections to that vacancy being filled, or you would need a 60-person filibuster-proof vote in the full Senate.
Yeah.
And he pointed out Feinstein, her staff, she and her staff consented initially to a temporary replacement while she was out recovering from shingles, right? Because the Judiciary Committee in particular is one of, if not the most important and impactful Senate committees because it's the one that approves judges and nominations, right?
Right.
Well, when you have such a thin margin, like before we increased our Democratic majority in the 2022 midterms, every time Biden would have a nominee and the vote would be split on party lines, even though Democrats were in the majority, it would basically have to go to a full Senate vote, and then Kamala Harris would have to break the tie every damn time. So even though Biden's been filling judicial vacancies left, right, and center prior to the 2022 midterms, it took longer because Kamala Harris had to come in there where they had to do a full vote of 100 people. She had to break the tie. After the midterms, because we increased our majority,
right,
that meant that basically the nomination process for Biden's nominees was much quicker. It could just be done in the Senate Judiciary Committee because they had the votes to do it.
Right.
But when Feinstein is out sick, the majority shrinks again, and that gums up the nomination process. So when people were calling on Feinstein, quit, leave. She's like, no, I'm not going to quit, but I will let you guys fill my seat with a temporary replacement. Right. Republicans said no. They blocked it.
Gotcha. So
So do you understand what I'm getting at here? And this
yeah,
this precipitated, it's a catch-22, right? And this precipitated yesterday an impromptu debate for about 45 minutes between Destiny, Pisco, Econoboy, Lycan, and myself. Because, and most of us agreed, with the exception of Destiny, and I think maybe Lycan, this is an abuse of norms and traditions in bad faith by Republicans who simply don't want the Democrats to be entitled to the majority that they are entitled to by filling a
right.
temporary or permanent replacement. And so what I was arguing and what Pisco argued and what Conaboy argued is Democrats should just change the rules. Okay. If you're so hell bent on blocking Biden that you won't allow any temporary replacement or any permanent replacement because it would just make it easier for Biden's nominees to get through, and we can't get 60 votes and we can't get unanimous consent, then we'll just do a filibuster carve out and make it a simple majority, and we'll put whoever we want in Feinstein's place. I support that because Republicans are breaking the norms in bad faith, so Democrats should not be beholden to them.
I think no. I do agree with you. I know you were expecting me to be, that institutional shill that I always am, but
Right.
I do think that generally speaking, if they're breaking norms, we should find ways to establish them, right? We should find some sort of rules that can structure our Senate. And if that rules favor us, I understand, but like at least they're carved out. I'm generally largely in favor of having that implemented by quite a bit.
So when you say, and we don't have to be like legislatively precise with our language, but
Mm-hmm.
when you say that it should be, did you say it should be codified? What did you say that the norm should be?
Wait, so sorry. Let me make sure I'm understanding. So
Sure.
we got the Judiciary Committee, right? Basically, that. Okay.
I know, I'm giving you a
Appreciate it.
thumbs up. Yep.
So that position has been filled by Feinstein, and when Feinstein is away, is there a replacement? Has there
No.
been a replacement while there's
No.
been a month and a half?
They blocked it.
Gotcha.
Republicans
So
blocked it.
gotcha. And sorry, I feel like I'm a little bit. Sorry, hold on one second. Okay, yeah. So they blocked it, and they're saying any replacement that we have, the governor would be able to find a replacement for Dianne Feinstein in the Senate, but for the
If she resigned from the Senate. So this
Right.
tripped Destiny up a bit too. So I want to clarify. Number one, Feinstein's back. She's back, right? She's this image of
Right.
her right now. It's kind of a moot point for the moment because she's back, but she's just being wheeled around. And not to be crass, but many people think cognitively and in terms of her health, she's hanging by a thread. So this could come up again. So this is basically dealing with the past and a potential future. If she were to quit the Senate, just stop being a senator, period,
Right.
Gavin Newsom would
Would
appoint somebody to fill out the rest of her term.
But the Senate, but essentially the majority leader would disapprove of filling that position in the Judiciary Council, correct?
The Judiciary Committee, the majority leader is Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, so he'd be all for it. But he would need...
Why would that position not be filled? Oh, because you need a 60 proof
60-person filibuster,
right.
Institutional shills. I love the filibuster. The filibuster's great. Yeah.
I've never said the filibuster is great.
Yeah.
I know Destiny has. I have not.
Yeah.
I totally understand that having a 60-person vote sometimes can just get in the way of progress made for this country, and it's basically
arbitrary. It's hella arbitrary.
Well, for sure, it's an arbitrary. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the term arbitrary, but it's definitely in favor of the status quo of the country, if that makes sense. Like it makes progress so much more incapable of moving forward.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I think Americans largely are frustrated because it feels like the Senate doesn't do anything. And the Senate doesn't do anything, largely speaking, because they need 60 people
to do anything outside of a reconciliation bill, or certain, like, now because rules have been changed, like the president with a simple majority can appoint executive and judicial nominees. That happened under Obama. And then like a Supreme Court vacancy that can also be filled with a simple majority vote. So some things have changed, but for the most part, legislation has to be passed with a 60-person filibuster proof majority.
Yeah. And I think that people are valid when they criticize how little the Senate seems to be doing constantly. Um, and I think the filibuster is getting in that way. And I think that, you know, when America agrees with the majority, that majority should generally be having a say.
Yeah. You know, and here's the thing. Listen, I'll throw you a bone. I think that there are some things, like, for example, on the filibuster, like I'm teasing you and Destiny about it. I actually don't want to abolish the filibuster.
Okay.
Democrats have effectively used the filibuster. Democrats use the hell out of the filibuster to
In
stop
really
Donald
positive
Trump.
ways. Yeah.
Yes. And I know enlightened centrists hate to hear this, but they're like, so wait a minute, a tool is good if it's used for good purposes, but then it's bad if it's used for bad. Yes, like every tool ever. A hammer is good when it's used to hit a nail. It's bad when it's
When it
used to
hits a
hit a
person.
baby. Yeah,
Sure.
like unapologetically. Like that's not a facile thought, and it's not exactly original either. That's how
Yeah.
tools work. The filibuster is a tool. When Democrats use that tool, it's generally for a good reason because
Sure.
Democrats generally are morally superior to Republicans. I say generally, I mean basically all the time. So I don't want to get rid of it. Next time we have a Republican president, I'm sure they're going to come up with like just banning trans people from existence, and Democrats
Right.
might need to use the filibuster to go, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that. You know what I do want it to be, though? I do want the filibuster to be more difficult to employ. Like right
Sure.
now, it is
Because
just
I think historically it has not been this constantly employed. Like
no.
this
Yes,
is
you're
kind of
correct.
like a unique position that the country is in where almost everything has been filibustered within the last I don't want to give a specific time frame because this is not my expertise, like
Right.
last 20 years or so.
Yeah. So yeah, so and it's so funny because like it's there's so much context to this, but yeah, so the filibuster was meant to be a relatively sparsely used tool,
Right.
and it also initially there was a lot of burden put on the party employing it. Basically, the idea was, and I'm giving you the 30,000 foot view. It's okay.
Sure.
If you want to employ the filibuster to stop the majority from passing legislation, that is possible. It can be done, but you will have all of the burden. The majority can kick back and just wait you out. They get to
Right.
coast, which they should be able to because they have the majority. If you want to stop it, the filibuster allows you a decent shot of doing it, but you're the one who's supposed to be standing there sweating your ass off in front of the lectern and running your mouth about the topic for 7 hours.
It is a little silly though. Can we agree that like our entire legislative process comes down to whether or not you can read the dictionary?
Well, here's the thing. That's unfortunately that's not even how the filibuster is really employed anymore. The way it works is so there's this notion called cloture, which means that you have enough people in the Senate to end a debate. And basically, the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, when they invoke the filibuster, they don't have to stand in front of the lectern anymore. Basically, all they can do is threaten it. They're like, listen, you're just wasting your time if you go this to the vote because if we have to stand here, we will, but you just don't have the votes to end the debate. So basically, it's almost like this is going to be a very crass metaphor, but it's almost just like reaching for your gun and not pulling it out, like the threat of we're like, okay, fine. And so
Right.
it's basically used like very rarely do people actually have to stand up and put forth the effort into invoking the filibuster when in fact because they can basically just deny like we've seen it was under it was under President Biden when the filibuster has been invoked before. Republicans threaten the filibuster and then they go home, and
Right.
Democrats are scrambling to find enough people to basically get to break the filibuster.
So the whole point of the filibuster is basic because the whole point should be that the majority can just sort of kick back, but that's not
Yes. If
essentially
if
what's
you if you want to invoke the filibuster, it should be the minority party scrambling to do the speaking, to get the votes or whatever, and the majority should be the ones being able to kick back and just wait you
right.
out. It's the reverse. The filibustering party has the advantage in every respect. And
Yeah.
then over time, its usage increased. Like it increased radically under the Clinton administration by Republicans.
Mhm.
And then Democrats continued not, it wasn't the same rate, but they were like, okay, you basically doubled it under Clinton. Okay, we'll start using it too. And they did.
Right.
And then Obama got elected. And then
Yeah, and it was
Republicans,
through the roof.
oh,
I mean, Mitch
yes,
McConnell has called himself so many times. Like
the
basically
Grim
his
Reaper.
entire yeah, well, like just an obstructionist party. Like that's what he's called himself. Like I am here to filibuster literally anything that you put forth.
Yes. And so again, it's that's what I mean. Like, and getting back to the broader topic, to me, this is the whole point. Like, And this is one of my theses. I don't think it'll ever go away until I convince all the people I want to convince that I'm right and they're wrong, which I am and they are. But the idea is that you norms and traditions and systems derive their they're only number one, they are not the end. They are merely a means to an end. Okay.
Right?
This idea, the people who fetishize institutions, like, listen, the filibuster is inherently good. No, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Majority rule is a tool, right? Like, because
Right.
we have seen institutions in world history, terrible institutions, norms, or whatever, that have had majority support, and they were
No,
no less terrible
I
simply
100%
yeah,
agree. No, I think there's a lot of cases in which democracy, we actually don't want people voting on very specific things. And the reason why we want democracy is because it's the best system that we've got
right.
right now, generally, to elect a person.
Yeah, and it's the best one. I mean, short of, like, I don't know, us like synthesizing with AI and finding some sort of like inherently rational model, like it is the
Yeah.
best that human beings are capable of. But
Yeah.
the even if I agree that institutions are generally worth preserving, which I do, I think that generally speaking, if you're in politics, you should try to affect every end through the accepted institutions.
Right.
And then if you hit failure after failure after failure, and of course it's a calculated decision. It's like, what are the stakes? What is the issue? Then you should try to reform the institutions, change the institutions, and if need be, as President Lincoln did, break them. Um, Arian Collins says the fact that Mitch can block an elected senator in a state where millions of voters have no state representation is deplorable. It is, and again, I want to clarify here. If Feinstein were to quit the Senate, McConnell couldn't stop Newsom from appointing a replacement and
Right.
that person taking her spot, but it would be on certain committee assignments. On
Right.
certain committee assignments, like the Judiciary Committee,
He could block it.
yes, he could effectively block it, which
So
Republicans did.
I'm curious what your prescription necessarily is.
A filibuster carve out. I think the majority should be like, okay, you know what, to hell with this. You're not just gonna. I understand that your goal is to obstruct the president, and and listen, it would be one thing, and this came up during the debate with Destiny. They were like, what if what if the shoe is on the other foot and Republicans wanted to put on the Judiciary Committee this radical, insane, alt-right conservative, which very could easily happen given that seems like a sizable chunk of their
Yeah.
caucus.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, it's different. It would be different if there was a specific person that Republicans didn't want on that committee because they found that person objectionable. That'd be one
Right.
thing. So let's
Right.
imagine a world where Bernie Sanders, because he's just my go-to example of somebody that Republicans hate because he's so relatively far left. If they're like, no, we don't want Bernie Sanders on the
Yeah, but
Judiciary Committee.
that's different from just saying writ large, we don't want you to have a majority.
Right. Yeah, that's unacceptable. So,
Regardless of who you put in, we
yeah,
are going to disagree. Because it's very similar to when Obama was replacing
Scalia.
Scalia, thank you. Scalia. And Obama was like, okay, gotcha. I'm going to put in a fairly moderate person just to make sure it gets approved. And Mitch McConnell still was like, no, we are disapproving of literally anyone we are putting in. It does not matter the quality of the person. It is the fact that you have appointed them. That is the issue that I take. That is my issue with it.
Yes.
And blocked it. And yeah, we all know what happened.
You absolutely no 100%. You get that, and that norm breaking also came up because there's this idea. I'm gonna pick on him because at some point he may show up here. Wick from Wick TV is a friend of mine. I like him. You like him. He's a nice guy.
I'll be on his show this Friday, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
You probably can't talk about the topic, can you? Because he's usually pretty mum about that.
I don't know. He hasn't said to not say it, but I don't think he's announced the topic.
Okay, then yeah, you probably shouldn't say anything.
No. Yeah. But
well,
yeah,
good, man. I'm glad to hear that. Wick TV. Yeah, you can see Stax there.
Wick.tv.
I don't know what the issue is. I'm hoping Stax is on the correct side. Stax, whatever the topic is, if your position is generally that the left is better than the right, and whatever the topic is, I will back you because statistically speaking,
when have I ever not done that?
I don't know, man. Listen, I think at the end of the day,
sometimes I will criticize the left, but like anytime it's put into perspective,
yes. As long as you put it in perspective, I just want you to give. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write you that disclaimer that I said you should always append to the beginning and end of any criticism of the left, and you can just read it off. You're like, listen, I'm contractually obligated.
Here's Here's all I will say about the debate. I think it might be the left versus the left, and the left. No, sorry, kind of the more extreme left versus like the center left. And I think I am taking like the more extreme left position. Just so you know, I know this is crazy talk. I know. Is this
Right here,
Staxioms
buddy.
anymore?
Hey, right here. Hey, give me some of this right here, baby. Come on,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
appreciate it, love it.
Let's
You're
see.
not even that extreme anyway.
I can't think of a
You're not
Dem
like
that
a
is.
communist.
I can't think of a Dem that is not capable that is on a committee. Look at the newbies like Goldman, Moskowitz, Crockett. Okay, Aaron Collin is my favorite person right now because he or she or they named some fire newbies in the House of Representatives in general. Yes, they are hella performers. It's incredible. That's what I mean. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't effective, like, Ted Cruz, as much as I dislike the guy, Ted Cruz has litigated in front of the Supreme Court multiple times. Ted Cruz is no dummy. He just does a hell of an impression of one. He's very, very smart.
Yeah.
But once we get off this and go to Stax's story, the next one that I've got involves a Democrat heavyweight because people say we have a weak bench, and in some ways we do, but in other ways our bench is infinitely stronger than the Republicans. Like, I will put not that this doesn't dictate conversation. It should, or this doesn't dictate politics. It should dictate certainly in the legislature where debate is supposed to be the most important aspect. But to whatever extent debate matters to you, the best of the Democratic Party, people like Newsom, Buttigieg, and some of the people like Dan Goldman, Jared Moskowitz, Crockett. I'm blanking on her name. I'm blanking on her first name, but she's a representative out of Texas. She's really, really good.
Sure.
If you put them in a moderated debate against any Republican, they'd eat them alive. Just it would be an absolute one-sided curb stomp in favor of the Democrats. Unfortunately, when it comes to our chief executives, we have a weak bench in terms of outside of Biden. There's nobody who has the combination of the profile, the name recognition, the charisma, the record, the availability, other than maybe somebody like Newsom. Right. So that's where we have a weak bench, where Republicans have like a good second string, like somebody like Ron DeSantis, who isn't doing very well, but he is the obvious heir apparent if Trump weren't available. Anyway, so to wrap this thing up on the Feinstein thing. So you agree or you disagree that in a situation like this, it is that Democrats have the moral right to say, you know what, you've abused the rules here, you've abused the norms, you just want to deny us the majority, so we will take whatever rule steps we need to, including a nuclear carve out, and we will put whoever we can want there, and you're just going to take it.
I definitely exist on a spectrum, but I mean, you make a really good point that essentially the issue is not the person, the issue is that they're going to disagree with any person that the Democrat puts forward. So you're kind of like locked into a position where you're like, okay, well, I don't want to have this senile representative. I want someone who is actually able to capably exist on our side. No, I 100% agree with you.
Good.
Yeah.
You hear that? Stax is less. He's becoming less of an institutionalist shill every damn day. We will soon get him to the based position, which is that institutions are a means to an end.
I've never disagreed.
And when Democrats wield them, it's great, and when Republicans do, it sucks.
I've never disagreed with that. I'm just saying let's be careful with crafting tools to make sure they can't hit babies. That's all.
You can't make a baby hitting proof.
Okay, maybe a bad example, but like generally speaking, if there are
positions, that's his favorite thing.
Yeah, I just that's what I do in my free time. I just call up hammer manufacturers and I say, my nephew died because of your. Sorry, this was a dark example. Yeah, I got a fucking extreme example. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Why?
No, just call them up and just start yelling at them.
0 to 60, man.
I know.
We were like, what is wrong with you? Now we'll never be able to show this again.
I'm sorry. God damn it. I ruin every bit.
You really do. This is
that got
unbelievable.
So extreme. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, no, but at least
I don't have a nephew, just to be so clear.
You never mind. Okay, so like, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So we came to a
completely
consensus
derailed
on this.
it. Yes, we did.
So now do you want to talk about Cornel West? Do you want to talk about the voting? What do you want to talk about?
I know I established myself as, generally far left, but I do have criticisms of progressives, and I do want to voice my frustrations with Cornel West for a
Okay.
little bit,
I'm
especially
gonna do one
people.
thing here. I'm gonna let you
Yeah,
present it to the person to the people, our many viewers, and I've got to get
yeah,
my DoorDash. So I'm gonna take myself off camera while you present the
very
case.
professional. Okay. Sounds good. All right. So essentially, Cornel West ran for, announced his presidency through the People's Party. My general frustration is it feels like leftists or pretty far extreme progressives seem to put forth only the most insane positions possible that are not realistic, that are unhelpful, and generally speaking, are worse than Biden. Because I'm all for criticizing Biden. I'm all for saying, hey, we need to have a more progressive position than Joseph Biden. But Cornel West's foreign policies are a little silly. And generally speaking, hey, how's it going, bud? I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but can you hear me? Okay, sounds good. Generally speaking, if we look at, hold on, I had it pulled up. Just one moment.
If you want to send me the link, and then I'll share the screen. That way everybody else can see it too.
Yeah, for sure.
See, it's amazing how dedicated I am to helping you out. I wish you reciprocated. It's a one-sided friendship.
True. What's for lunch, Ruminate?
Chinese takeout. No, I lost it in the sweet and sour sauce. No.
Yeah.
You send me the link. There it is.
Yeah, I did.
Cornel West 24 for president. I know he's got your vote.
True. And I want to out myself here. I don't think that this is stuff that Josiah knows about me. I generally get frustrated with these types of people because I used to be this type of person. You ready for Josiah and my friendship to end right now? I'm so scared to say this. I voted for I did not vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016. I voted for Green Party. I know. I'm sorry. I feel like I don't think he knew this about me. And I think that I voted for.
All right, so that was the official end of my friendship with Stax. I don't even know. Oh, I'll get him back in here so I can yell at him real quick.
But that is something that like I used to be that like very far left progressive who was like, no, this is like we I will not vote for Hillary Clinton because I feel that she is. So it's okay, hold on. I was living in a red state anyway. It was going to vote red no matter what, and it did vote red no matter what. I didn't feel like my vote mattered, and so I was like, "Oh, fuck it. I'll just vote for Jill Stein. I don't care." So I have a lot of sympathy for these people who were so far progressives that they feel like they can't vote for Joe Biden. And I am here to speak to you guys because I assume that maybe there's some in our audience, especially because. Okay. Anyway, Cornel West is essentially the 2024 version of Jill Stein. But I will say, I didn't. Let's look at his policies real quick here. Scroll all the way down. Some of these I stand for quite a bit. His Medicare for all, guarantee healthcare to all, like every other major country on earth. I think that's a very positive policy, one that you should fight for. Protect the environment, clean up pollution in our food, water, and air, tackle climate change. And then you sort of look over to your left-hand side and you see the end the wars thing. That sounds interesting. End the wars. I'm in favor of ending wars. Bring our troops home and invest those trillions of war dollars into American communities. Support veterans. And here we go. Stop all foreign military aid. Close the bases. Disband NATO. And ban nuclear weapons globally. First off, I guess my frustration is I used to be of this opinion. I used to say, Stax looks like actor Chris O'Dowd. Check a picture. Amazing. I've never heard that similarity. But I guess I get frustrated quite a bit with this pacifist route to global and foreign affairs, so much so that it essentially incentivizes imperialism, if that makes sense. Generally speaking, Josiah, you want to join me in, or are you too hungry?
I'm listening intently. I'm still recovering, quite frankly, from the Jill Stein
From the Jill
betrayal.
Stein thing?
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know
I
what I have to
know.
offer here. You betrayed everybody.
Straight up, from the Ella from the friend of the show. She like straight up like stopped talking to me for like 3 days after I told her that.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna join her. It should be three. We should talk to you only for 3 days. Really, quite
Yeah,
frankly.
no, for sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I understand. I used to be of that like very anti-war, anti-establishment, anti how much money we spend in foreign progress until I saw what happened with Ukraine. And I was like, oh, gotcha. When a country is invaded, it's actually good to send resources to them to make sure they can defend themselves. And sometimes I get frustrated by the quality of progressive candidates because I would like to have someone more progressive than Joe Biden. I think that he's been an overall, generally very progressive president, but I am in favor of more progressive than him. And I just don't think I get frustrated every time a candidate seems to come up and it looks like this, if that makes sense. It's unserious. And also he tied himself to the People's Party, which is like this anti-vax political party that got founded by what's his name? The
Well said. Then he changed it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, he
to the
changed
Green
it to the
Party.
Green Party. Yeah, he moved it like almost immediately. But the People's Party is just like it's embroiled in like anti-vax rhetoric, and I just sometimes get so frustrated because I do want a more far left position, but it always seems to be occupied by the most unserious people on planet Earth. And this is just a reminder to vote for Joe Biden because the alternatives
Yes.
are another Jill Stein where they're going to occupy 0.5 or like less than a percent of the overall
Margin.
vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really just like what was the point of all this? I don't really see one.
So I'll say this. I'll weigh in since I have now enough calories in me to sustain myself. So it's
Appreciate it.
sidebar. Okay, listen. I was hungry. I was ravenous. I was out last night with friends, and it was a lot of calories. Okay, like it was a
Sure.
very active evening. Whereas I was out hanging out with friends, being active, clubbing it up.
I'm
What did you?
confused.
What?
Friends?
Yes, friends. People who willingly, voluntarily associate with you, often in public and without shame.
I feel like every time I get close to that, I mention that I voted for Jill Stein, and then they just
that would
stop
be a
doing
friendship killer,
that.
100%. Your friends, the only friends who would find that acceptable are Republicans. You would have Republican friends. They would love you.
Well, no, they don't really like Jill Stein either.
Yeah, but they like the fact that you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton.
That is true.
Yeah. So whereas when you are out till 3 or 4 of them, tell everybody what you do when you're out till 3 in the morning recently.
I don't know what reference this is. What was I doing?
What were you out
3 a.m.?
super late doing? Your favorite hobby?
Oh, you're making fun of the fact. Yeah, I went to a pre-release. It was a Magic the Gathering night, and I was there till like 7 in the morning. Yeah, it started at midnight. Yeah, that
I'm
was
sorry.
2
Could you
nights
repeat
ago.
that for
I was like,
everybody?
last night I went to bed at like 9 p.m. and woke up at like 6. It was great.
Yeah.
No,
I'm
the
sorry.
night
Could you
before
repeat
that.
Could you repeat what you did the other night? I'm sorry. What was that again? A
It was
pre-release?
it was a Magic the Gathering event that I was up till 7 a.m. There were prizes for the top 16. I got 17th place. So well worth my evening.
And there were 15 people.
There
were 15 people, but you still got 17th place.
Yeah.
So listen, okay. I will not be mocked for needing to calorie load, okay? I will not be derided by you. Having said that, though,
yeah,
it is profoundly unserious.
Yeah,
right?
And that's just what it feels like. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's profoundly unserious, virtually impossible, and I think that obviously the president, hypothetically, if Cornel West were to become president, which obviously he will not, the president is given enormous discretion as commander in chief over like the operational elements of the military, right? Like basically virtually all discretion. But in terms of like broad military policy, like the president couldn't disband NATO. He would need congressional support to do it, and there are probably elements within NATO where he'd have to get the
Yeah.
other NATO countries to also agree.
Like obviously we have the biggest say in
Right.
NATO, but certainly not we're not the end all be all.
Right. Precisely. I mean, and so it's also dangerous too. I mean, like the idea that, you know, and ban nuclear weapons. Okay, how would you
Like,
do
what
that?
does that mean? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What does that mean? Banning nuclear weapons globally? Because that sounds great.
Oh, hell
How
yeah.
do you do? I would love to just get rid of nuclear weapons globally. What that generally means is we will all get rid of our nuclear weapons. Russia will keep their nuclear weapons because why the fuck would they listen to us? Uh, they're our antagonists generally, and then just invade all of the Eastern European countries and like wage war continuously. And we just have like a hey, as long as they're not invading America, it's fine.
And Iran and North Korea would be like, sure, you can
Yeah.
ban all nuclear weapons. We don't have any to ban. And then they continue to do what they do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's just it feels I guess unserious is just the best way to put it. That like this all sounds so nice and dandy, but it's such an unrealistic and unserious way of looking at the world and way of looking at foreign policy. And I get frustrated with my fellow progressives because this is who we're siding with now. Like
Well,
I
I don't
get
know.
Joe Biden isn't everything we wanted. I get it. But
Yeah, so it's interesting on President Biden because I want to say this. Well, screw it. I'll just shoot from the hip. He was not my first choice in the primary. He wasn't my
right,
second choice in the primary. He wasn't my third choice in the primary. I don't even know if he was the fourth, to be honest with you. It
I
was
100%
Bernie. It was
agree.
Buttigieg. It was Warren. I
Warren, yeah.
basically had everybody who was more progressive than Joe Biden ahead of Biden. Listen, Joe Biden is not personally progressive. I think, if left to his own devices, Joe Biden is just an establishment, kind of middle of the road Democrat who likes to be friends with everybody. Now, because the Overton window has shifted a bit, his version of moderate in 2023 is more leftward than it was in 2003, than in 1993, and so on and so forth. But he himself is not even relatively speaking in today's era progressive. His administration, however, has been
Yeah.
the most progressive since Lyndon Baines Johnson or arguably FDR. Now, that
Yeah.
might not mean much to certain online progressives, but that has made a world of difference for people who are actually affected by policy, which
Yeah.
matters. So I have
And
friends that I follow on Twitter that are more progressive than me, who are they loathe Biden. And I mean,
yeah.
they dedicate their entire lives and their tweets to smack talking Biden and the Biden
Yeah.
administration. And they're very much cut from the Brianna Joy Gray
Yeah.
cloth, which just in terms of political efficacy, in terms of like the political, I have no respect for that. I can have respect for a person, but that particular viewpoint, which is just, if it's a choice between Hillary
No harm
and
reduction.
right,
No
yeah.
harm reduction.
Yeah, if harm reduction doesn't factor into your politics, you just simply have an unserious, unsophisticated view of politics that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right. And listen, I do believe, I'll say this, like I've also come to appreciate perpetually unsatisfied progressives, because I do think that the whole point is there should be a vocal element of the left that is also strategic, but that doesn't let people rest on their laurels. As much as I like President Biden, I think that if he weren't being constantly pushed by progressives, I think Joe Biden's instincts would be to kick back.
100% agree with
So
this.
I'm glad AOC and Bernie are in his ass all the time. No, Mr. President, this isn't far enough. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And he should get that pressure constantly, because some of the best things to come from Biden's administration are because of progressives, because of Bernie Sanders, because of AOC, because of the progressive caucus in the House. And so the very things that Biden is now claiming credit for, which he is right to do so, had he not had the support and the vocal pushing of the progressive caucus, they wouldn't be feathers in his cap. He owes them. And honestly, too, it's another funny thing because as we get towards the 2024 election, there's credible reporting that Biden has been trying to moderate because he has this mentality. And I think there's basis for it, by the way. Joe Biden's not an idiot, and he's been a very successful politician for 50 years.
Mhm.
But the instinct is, okay, I'm a centrist or a moderate. I have governed as a progressive, but now I'm running for reelection. And in this political climate, I need to moderate my rhetoric further and try to like swing back to the center. That is the conventional wisdom. There's some merit to that, but it's also really frustrating for progressives because they're like, dude, I know you talk about how great moderates are and centrists are, and we need them. We need Manchin. We need Sinema, which is true. But you also need Bernie Sanders. Like
Yeah.
the margins are so slim. People only consider one side of the calculus. Well, if Biden wants to get anything done, he needs the moderates to vote. You also need the progressives to back it too, dumbass. Because if you lose the progressive vote, you don't win. So Biden has an obligation, yes, at times to appease the moderates, to appease Joe Manchin, to appease Kyrsten Sinema, as annoying as it is, because he does need them. But there are times he needs to do whatever Bernie Sanders wants too, because he needs Bernie Sanders too. He needs AOC too. He needs Rashida Tlaib too. He needs Ilhan Omar too. He has to serve these people at different times in different places, and it's a judgment call. But my fear is centrists, establishment centrists, somebody like Biden tend to only vote. They take it for granted that they're going to get the progressive vote. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So
Because
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I do think that because progressives always have the mindset of harm reduction, as good as it is, we will vote for essentially anything that appeases to centrists as well, and that is kind of it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, harm reduction.
Well, I'll give you an example of where recently progressives kind of deviated from it or threatened to, and I was actually all for it. I'm like, good, push Biden, pressure him over the debt ceiling negotiations.
Yeah,
there was an uprising and where progressives in the House and the Senate threatened to not vote for any deal that he made with McCarthy. And I hope, I mean, obviously, again, it's in the past, the deal was passed, but I hope Joe Biden lost sleep at night for weeks over this because he needed to be fearful. He needed to be terrified into not giving away the farm, because I do think, and there's evidence to support this, as great of a negotiator as Joe Biden is, and he's proven it, I think he's just too overly generous. Like, it's in his instinct to be generous with the other side.
Sure.
And I think had he been left to his own devices, he would have given the farm away to McCarthy just to make a deal. So from what I've read, part of the reason that deal was so structured in a way to benefit Democrats on the whole compared to Republicans, I think is in large part because Biden knew if he gave away too much, more and more progressives wouldn't vote for it. And there's a deal that he would have egg on his face and preside over an economic ruin. So I'm glad progressives told him, Mr. President, if you're going to negotiate, you better be effing careful how you do it, because we might just withdraw our support. Good. I love that. That was BDE from the Progressive Caucus, and I hope Biden sweated over it, because my fear is for this next election cycle, you should only be generous to Republicans only ever. At any other time, it is morally reprehensible to do this, only when it is strategically valuable. Otherwise, you shouldn't give them shit. You should always defer to progressives and only ever be bipartisan when you absolutely desperately need to. So that urge of Biden just to be like, jovial Uncle Joe, and listen, man, I've got friends on the other side. No, kill that urge, Mr. President. Just choke the life out of it so I can smile. I don't know what this has to do with Cornel West.
I was enjoying the tangent anyway. I was like, this is just classic Josiah.
Yeah.
But no, I
don't like the Republican Party. I think that's what I'm getting at. I don't think I like Republican senators and Congress people. I don't think I do.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I would vote for a progressive over Biden in most cases, but I think deferring to some third party that we absolutely know will not get will not win the electoral vote without abolishing first past the post, or where did Josiah go? Without abolishing first past the post, all of the ways in which third parties are disadvantaged. Let's eliminate those, and then maybe we'll have some ranked choice voting, and then maybe I'll be fine with Cornel West running. But it's just it's such an unserious person, and there's so many stakes, especially because like we're essentially like towards progressives, like, do you really want Trump to get 4 more years in office? And I hate doing that again, where I just keep throwing that over and over and over again. But that is the reality that we're
Yes.
living in. That is the reality that like it is Biden versus Trump. We
Yes.
have the incumbent advantage. We
Yes.
have like that is such a huge advantage that we have, is that we have like it's generally speaking very obvious in politics that if you are in office, politics gears towards the status quo and inertia. And if you are already in office, you are generally going to keep that office. We have
Unless
that
you're a
benefit.
Republican, they tend to choke on the incumbent lead or the incumbent. The last time in
True.
like modern U.S. history that an incumbent has failed, it's been Republican presidents.
Well,
It's
it was
been
Donald Trump.
Donald
Yeah.
Trump, George H.W. Bush. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, generally speaking, even with
Well, and then Carter right before that. So
right. Yeah.
only
But
the last two.
yeah, exactly. Well, of the three, two have been
Two, sure.
Republican failures. Yeah. So I said, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Sorry.
Listen,
I'm
this
just
is what I
saying
mean.
there was
This
a
is what,
progress. Okay, go ahead.
yes, there was in 1980. Okay, yes,
You're
there
right.
was.
That was 40
And
years
by the
ago.
way,
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
let's talk about that. President Carter is on death's door. He's in hospice right now.
Yeah.
And there has been credible reporting. I was in Wisconsin when the story broke, canvassing for the Wisconsin special election, or not the special Supreme Court election.
Supreme Court, yeah.
There was a New York Times op-ed in which one of the Republican strategists involved with this provided firsthand like recounting, because he was in the conversations, that the Reagan I don't want to say administration because they hadn't been elected yet, but the Reagan campaign was heavily pressuring Iran to not settle the dispute with Carter so
To
that
make Carter
Reagan,
look shit?
yes. And this is what I'm talking about, how this is nothing new.
That is
The
insane.
Republican Party, and I don't mean Republican voters. I'm friends with Republican voters. My sisters are Republican voters. I
Sure.
love Republican voters. They're people that I love. The Republican Party, the conservative thought leaders, this is a disgusting, morally reprehensible collective. They are inferior morally, intellectually, and in matters of policy in every single way
Because I think it's
to
pretty
the
fair to
Democratic
say
Party.
I think it's pretty fair to say that that was the deciding factor
Yes,
for that election. Was the hostage
absolutely.
crisis.
The single
Like there was
biggest point.
there was I like even saying it was the number one, it was like that was 98% of the reasoning why people didn't vote for Carter was because of that hostage crisis.
And you know what? Let's juxtapose Carter in this respect to Trump, because he's the most recent. Carter was the most recent incumbent Democratic president to lose re-election, and
Yep.
Trump was the most recent incumbent Republican president to lose re-election. Let's compare and contrast these two. Yes, exactly. Arian Collins right here.
There you
Jimmy
go.
Carter builds homes with his hands and Trump steals government documents. So let's juxtapose the two most modern examples of an incumbent failing.
Uh-huh.
Jimmy Carter is just better than Donald Trump.
Facts.
Smarter, a better person. What an icon, a paragon of virtue. So anytime.
The more
Go ahead.
Sorry, the more because I grew up on Carter hate and Reagan love. Like that is, I just grew up in a fairly conservative town. It was in California, but it was like pretty conservative for California. And
Reagan was governor of California.
Yeah, no, 100%. Everyone loved Reagan. I remember the first progressive I met who fucking hated Reagan. It was like 19 years old, and I was like, oh, I just thought he was like Lincoln, Washington. Like everyone loves this guy. He's just well beloved. And the more I look into his policies, Carter was so much better than all of the hate that he constantly gets from like every side of the aisle. Like even progressives seem to like sometimes shit on him, and it's so weird. Like Carter's policies. I don't know. I think I'm largely in favor of him.
Yes,
but
you're pro Carter,
and especially post presidency. Like he's spent almost the entirety of the last like 40 years just building homes in like disenfranchised communities, and that like giving to nonprofits. And you know, not to pull the Josiah angle, but we are morally superior in every way. Yeah, go ahead. Got your orgasm off. I've been edging you for an hour now. Finally got you.
I had a moment. I'm flush right now. Yeah. No, but listen, I mean, at the end of the day, still getting back to the not just Cornel West, but the broader topic of when and where progressives should deviate, should defy. Again, to me, it's the same thing. It actually ties back to the first topic when it comes to norms and institutions and traditions. Yeah. Progressive defiance is a tool. There are times when progressives should tell the Democratic establishment, no, you will do
Yeah.
it our way, or you will feed us more than you're feeding the moderates. You need to do that. And then there are times when progressives just need to take the deal on the table
Yeah.
because the alternative is infinitely worse. Harm reduction has to play a role here. So
I think a good
go
sorry.
ahead. No,
Yeah,
please.
I don't. I think a good litmus test, generally speaking, like as an example, is like the primary is when progressives should push, and the general is when progressives should fall in line. Like that is generally, and that's largely what I did in 2020. Like I campaigned for both Biden and Warren, depending on yeah. Essentially, I loved both of them. I donated to both of their campaigns, but during the primary, or
You
sorry, during the
donated a
general,
feet pic. How did that
yeah,
possibly? You
it
sent
made
pictures of your
so
feet.
much more money than you thought it did. Then you would be surprised by how much my feet would have been.
Stax's piggies, his toes are the reason that President Biden was
Yeah.
inaugurated because of the sheer financial value of your feet. You actually might have committed campaign violations because of the
Is that a
worth.
problem?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
because no, not because of the
Oh, because it was
nature.
worth so much.
Yes, there are
I
limits,
see.
man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Your
yeah, yeah,
feet
yeah.
are like a
That's
commodity.
dark money.
It is.
Is my feet.
I'm sorry, but you were saying, yeah.
um no, yeah, I 100% agree that we should vote, we should fight for better candidates than Biden during the fucking primary, or sorry, during the primaries, during when Trump is president and we need a replacement. We should fight for the most progressive person possible. But God damn it, when people are voting, when Biden wins the primary and we're moving on to the general, we need to realize, okay, we have two choices. We can either waste our vote on Jill Stein. I mean, sorry, I don't know why I said Jill Stein. That was a weird
Guilt.
little,
Guilt
yeah.
is what that was, baby. Guilt. All right. You felt, and you should feel generally disgusted with yourself. You're a monster. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, when you vote for Jill Stein, but like you need to acknowledge that essentially you're throwing your vote away because you see Joe Biden and Donald Trump as the same. Like you see the Democratic and the Republican institutions as inherently the same. And Cornel West has said this himself, that he sees Republicans and Democrats as just trees and I forget the exact quote, but he basically just says they're of the same vein, of the same root, and it just feels completely unserious. Is just the word that I'm going to say constantly over and over about this candidacy. And it's irked me a little bit, mostly because I see myself in people who are voting for Cornel West, and I think that's why I want to speak up so much about it.
No, it makes perfect sense. So for the next like 22 minutes, because we have a hard stop at 2:30. And by the
Yeah.
way, I like this format. We have done. I don't want to. I think we've done pretty well with this Stacks. I
Yeah.
think like it's mostly been me. You voted for Jill Stein. You're disgust. I mean, I'm so
It's fair.
infuriated with you about that.
If you want to make fun of me, I honestly kind of deserve it. Like I do want to get
not
bullied.
kinda. Like no, not kinda.
I did this so
do.
that I knew that I would get bullied, and I want to get bullied. But
That's good.
It just gets me.
That's good. Well. Listen, we don't king shame around here. So
yeah.
let me just do something here real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, start talking and tell me if you hear that echo.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So this is when we play this clip and you want to offer something, just tell me to stop and I'll pause it, take it off screen, and then we'll talk about it so there's no echo destroying your ears. So last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is the Sean Hannity, Gavin Newsom interview. Now it's an hour long. We obviously will not get through it all. I want to play and we'll bounce around and stuff like that. But I've got according to Hannity, the interview lasted an hour. I've not seen the full interview.
Yeah, I haven't either. I tried looking everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, this is part one. And I watched like 20 minutes and I was like, show me the rest of it.
Right. So I found a video which combined that initial 20 to 30 minute clip with, I think, other teasers that Hannity, because I think he's going to release the second half this week. I think he intentionally broke it up is what I'm gathering. And then he's teased out some additional clips along the way. So I've got this 42-minute video here. But so I just want to tee this up. And again, there's no way we're going to get through it all, but
sure.
So Gavin Newsom, governor of California, been the governor of California for years. He actually, like 2 or 3 years ago, was like the subject of a recall election because apparently the threshold to trigger a recall election in California
So
is
small.
ludicrously low.
It
Yeah.
was during the COVID nightmare when like
Yeah.
every Republican was furious with Newsom for for just
Yeah.
having basic human policies that prioritize people over like
The economy. Yeah. The
yeah
monster.
yeah exactly yeah, but he obviously won the recall vote.
Yeah,
Still
he
governor
cleared it. He cleared it easily, but it definitely
easily.
gummed up the system. Like, I mean, the threshold was so ludicrously low. But anyway, so Gavin Newsom is, how do I want to say this? It's interesting when you contrast high profile Republican governors with high profile Democratic governors. So the two that jump to mind immediately, and honestly, the two that jump to mind immediately on the Republican side, obviously Ron
DeSantis.
DeSantis, even
Yeah.
before he was running for president,
Yeah.
Governor of Florida, Republican, Governor Greg Abbott of
Sure.
Texas.
Texas. Yeah.
The only real Democrat that I think of in those terms is Gavin Newsom, and not to say. So and I said this on my own channel. There are very effective Democratic governors like J.D. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, but they don't seek the national spot. I guarantee most people could not pick Pritzker out of a lineup,
Yep.
right? But that man is just grinding away with a Democratic
Well,
trifecta. Just
yeah,
yeah.
And to be fair, it's because these states are so huge, right? Like
Right.
Texas, Florida, California. These are
Right.
some of our largest states.
Now,
Maybe not Florida, but
well, I mean, in terms of population, yeah, you're talking about the top five
yeah.
right there. The other
Is
one that
Florida
I was
top
going to
five?
say was New York, Governor Hochul, but
Mhm.
she is not. I think she's certainly among the most high profile Democratic governors, but I don't think she has
I
the
wouldn't
same
call her high profile. Yeah.
You wouldn't? So yeah, so there's debate there. Obviously,
Well, like
she.
she's
Go ahead.
no, sorry. I agree that like a New York governor for sure, but especially if we're considering like the high profile stature of Greg Abbott, Ron DeSantis, Gavin Newsom, I feel like these are all like kind of household names, if that
Right.
makes sense. When people think of
Or as close
politics,
to them as possible.
yeah, I mean, as
Yeah.
much as a governor could be, right?
Right. Hochul,
Especially
I
in state
think, does
races.
not make use of her status, and when she does, it's very often to collect more L's than she should. Like,
Sure.
again, when she stupidly tried to put and progressives bullied her out of it, she nominated a really, really, really conservative Supreme Court judge for New York Supreme Court. Stupid move, lady. Pack that court with progressives, every damn communist, socialist, whatever, social democrat you can find, just to own the cons. They deserve it. Stupidly, she had that, well, bipartisanship. No, again, bipartisanship's a means to an end. When you bipartisanly have a bad idea, it's still a bad idea. Just because it was bipartisan doesn't make it any better. We need to have like a class on, guys, these buzzwords, means to an end. If you just inherently value them, you're missing the point. So Newsom is, to me, is the only real counterweight to Abbott and DeSantis. And he actually makes use of it, dude. Like, how Abbott and DeSantis, even again, before DeSantis ran for governor, he was a high profile name, and he was making these culture war talking points. Newsom is trying to go nose to nose with him. I'll argue with you on the facts, on the policy, on the culture war talking points. I'll get in your face. I'll run, billboards in Texas and in Florida telling your own constituents how much you suck and how little you're doing for them because you're focused on stupid stuff that doesn't matter. He loves that. He seeks them out. He's gone on tour in Florida and Texas, speaking engagements, trying to troll these people. He uses the bully pulpit. Every interview, he takes shots at them. I love that energy.
Yeah.
That is what animates the Republican Party. I don't think it's what animates the Democratic Party, but I tell you what, I do think it's an untapped source of energy. I think there are Democrats, much like myself, who want to see Democrats bully Republicans.
Sure.
Republicans are bullies, and they're very, very good at it. And like bullies, they need to encounter a bigger bully, a bully who is stronger, meaner, tougher, who puts them in their place. Gavin Newsom can be that bully. And I think he can also do it in a way that doesn't abandon Democrat civility politics. And I think that's what this interview shows. Is there anything you want to say before we look at some of this?
No, I 100% agree. I think that he does a really good way of using progressive values and genuine statistics and empathy in a way to very critically like push Sean Hannity under a microscope and just sort of let the audience see who he really is. And yeah, I think that it was a very good performance by Gavin Newsom. And we have to be unfortunate with the word performance. Like politics is performance at times. Like, and
It
that
is.
is that might be frustrating that it's not all politics focused or policy focused, I want to say. That it sometimes does revert to this sort of performance angle of debate bro tactics, but sometimes that is what gets an audience going, and that is how a democracy functions, unfortunately. And I think Gavin Newsom does a great job of utilizing that.
A couple of things before we get started, because I don't want to ignore the comments.
Mhm.
Fogg said this earlier when we were talking about Iran and Reagan and Carter, and someone gave the order for the Marine helicopters to remove the EAPs, engineer particle separators, from their engine intakes in the desert. I honestly, at first, I was like, this must be a bot. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about. But then he pointed out, because I forgot that there was an extraction attempt of the hostages. And he says that was the technical reason, like the mechanical reason the hostage rescue attempt failed. So interesting piece of trivia. And then Arian Collins said, question for you two. Newsom reminds me of Bill Clinton. Nuances. What do you guys think? Yeah, I can see it. I mean, Bill Clinton is the single most charismatic president, in my opinion, in modern history, more so than Barack Obama, more so than Ronald Reagan, more so just the man just exudes smoothness, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Newsom's not quite at that level, but in terms of trying to pitch himself as palatable to all elements, because Newsom, like Bill Clinton, tried to reach over with that, third way. Clinton was like third way politician where he's like, listen, I'm going to be socially liberal, but fiscally conservative, which would be unacceptable in today's age, certainly because the Overton window shifted. But that was his way of trying to make a big tent party for everybody and appeal to moderates and conservatives. I think Newsom tries to do that as well in his own way. Anything you want to say about that before we start playing the clip?
Nope. I agree with everything you said. Yep.
All right, I'm going to start playing the clip at any point. You want to stop? Just say stop, and then we can unpack it. And again, there's no way. We have 15 minutes left. There's no way we're going to get through half of this, but I just want to play some of it.
All right, so I write you. This got a lot of pickup, I'm sure you saw as well.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I want to do an interview.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do an interview. I want to make sure the audience understands up front. This is not going to be me. I want you to answer and give your views. I would say you represent probably about half the country, your views, and the other half represents mine. You agree? We're kind of divided.
Plus or minus, certainly divided. Yeah. No question. I mean, we're polarized, we're traumatized. We clearly are in these, and we're in these echo chambers. I mean, let's be candid, Sean. I mean, your folks are watching you and getting a certain perspective, and my folks are watching other networks getting a certain perspective
we
as
have
well.
Studies that show a lot of Democrats watch me.
Well, including me. So I'm here for a reason. To wit the point, though, I think we need more of that cross-pollination. We need more of these kind of conversations, and we need to not just accuse each other of misleading the American people, but I think confront each other in the context of providing opportunities to address some of the facts that are often omitted in terms of the conversations and topics we choose to pick up.
So what I see is, I don't know how you reconcile some of these differences. Now, you either believe in secure borders and law and order, and people that want to come into our country have to do it legally. I'm the product of that.
Right.
Or there are people that want open borders. You believe in defund, dismantle, no bail laws like cities like in New York, where the show originates from, or you believe law and order, safety, security is a prerequisite for the pursuit of happiness. You want energy independence, or you don't want any domestic energy production. I mean, how do you reconcile?
Well, I don't.
So before he gets into it,
incredibly weighted language. I just want to say that, like, you could pivot this in a lot of different ways. You could say energy independence to like really pivot fossil fuel in a very positive light, or you could say destruction of the environment. Like it's sometimes infuriating to hear like these incredibly loaded languages. And I mean, Newsom hasn't responded yet, but he does pivot.
You see it in
the opposite way.
Yeah, you see it on his face where he's like, I'm trying to be super polite here, but like I take issue with the premise. Like, okay,
yeah.
Well, and also the fact of the matter is, and this is the other thing, just real quick, and we won't, and Newsom will get into it more. We are energy independent by even Hannity's own standards.
Yeah.
Fossil fuel, productivity has not declined under President Biden.
And you can pivot it where like you can acknowledge, right, that the world is moving towards cleaner energy, and if we become the forefront of it, we become the hallmarker of energy independence
and the one to gain from it the most. If that's really the only motivator for you, then you should be
not.
like,
it's clearly not. Yeah.
Right.
I don't see those binaries at all. Quite
You
the
don't see it at all?
No, I don't. I mean, I want border security. Democrats want border security. We also want
But you don't want any walls.
I want comprehensive immigration reform. I want to actually address the issue more comprehensively, just like Ronald Reagan did in 1989. Just like, and with respect, Sean, you promoted yourself with the Gang of Eight and bipartisan legislation that got 68 votes in the Senate, only to die in the House, that could fundamentally address this issue, which is the issue. So I don't see those.
But I always
binaries.
had as my position, build the wall first. You're against building any wall.
I know. I have no problem with the 650 plus miles we have on border walls. I come from a state with the largest, I mean, San Ysidro is the largest land port in the Western Hemisphere. I don't need to be educated on the issue of the border or issues of immigration policy.
Well, look, Medi-Cal for illegals is $2.7 billion to the state.
And how many billions are we spending for uncompensated care? People end up in the emergency
Can I ask you,
on the back end, wasting taxpayer money.
why is it wrong to just demand, if you want to come to this country, obey our laws, respect our borders, respect our sovereignty, apply, come in, and we can expedite the application process.
The latter part. Now you're having a conversation.
Yeah. Sorry. So I always get irked by this because this is something that I feel like I've read an article about this ages ago. But
And I'm listening to you, but I'm gonna put a mouthful of my food in, so I'm gonna go off camera,
no
but I
worries.
can hear you, so keep talking.
Okay, sounds good. I think it's a perspective or philosophy of conservative pundits or just conservative people writ large. And it's sometimes called like the stepfather opinion, where like it's basically like, hey, it doesn't matter what the outcomes are. It matters that we are harsh or that we are essentially being negative, if that makes sense. Like we are being harsh and strict. And that matters more than anything, because Newsom brings up a really good point. Like, hey, this actually saves money. This saves money for the state. Bringing, sorry, hold on one sec. Bringing healthcare towards people who are illegal immigrants. We are losing so much money because of the back end that happens at hospitals when people come into the ER with care that they did not seek initially. We are saving money by meeting it by stopping it at the impetus instead of at the end. And yeah, and Hannity just goes, look, it's about principles. They broke the law. They need to suffer.
Right. It's
so infuriating that like they can't see means to an end, right? It seems to be the thesis of this episode. Means to an end. This is, you can disagree that illegal, you could say, hey, I don't care. They broke the law. They should be punished.
Yes.
Well, what about saving money? If you care about fiscal responsibility,
yes.
Like if you care about.
Well, here's the thing, because I want to play some more clips, so I don't want to harp on it for too long.
Sorry.
But yes, no, I completely agree, because and Democrats have got to be better about, with agility and alacrity and concision, just like Newsom is, and saying it often. We have to. Facts don't speak for themselves. Democrats have got to get that under control. Yeah. Facts do not speak for themselves. Democrats are better as a party on the economy. That is simply a fact on every metric. They are better on fiscal responsibility on every metric than Republicans. And we need charismatic, well-spoken Democratic operatives to persistently, insistently reaffirm that again and again and again and again and again. And what you have Newsom doing here is saying, listen, you claim to be about fiscal responsibility, right? Your way is, like you said, the stepfather approach.
Loses money.
It's a virtue. Well, it's a virtue signal. You're just being a dick on principle.
Yes.
And it's fiscally irresponsible, you moron. Our way may seem like the soy approach, where we give, migrants who come here illegally health care.
Shit done. Who cares?
Not only is it the humanitarian approach, but if that means nothing to you, if that means absolutely nothing to you, it's more fiscally responsible. I win, you lose. My way's better. And I like that get Newsom's pointing.
It reminds me so much about the Freedom Caucus when they essentially blocked the debt reconciliation, or the debt ceiling raise, where part of that was removing the IRS component of the Inflation Reduction Act, basically removing the only fiscally positive part of our government. And it's so insane that
for every $1 you spend on the IRS, you get 6 or 7 in return. It is it's a fiscal advantage.
Why
all the facts will reaffirm it. Anyone who suggests otherwise is either ignorant or a liar.
Yeah, and if you are talking so much about the debt ceiling being irresponsible towards financial responsibilities of our country, why in the hell are we talking about defunding the IRS? That is the only tax positive, or maybe not the only,
revenue positive.
Yeah, revenue positive aspect of our government.
Yeah,
and it just speaks to the absurdity and constant uh, two-sidedness
Right.
of the
And so
Republican
Newsom's
Party.
doing the right thing by hitting him on two approach. Listen, it's just good morals, number one. And if that matters not to you, it's more fiscally responsible. Again, with precision, concision, and charisma, people need to consistently do what Newsom is doing here. Don't mention it once and then never talk about it again in 10 years. You don't mention it once and then just appeal to. That's the other thing, too. Unfortunately, too often, I think Democrats focus on the social benefits of their policy and the compassion and empathy, which are obviously incredibly important, but obviously you got to deliver the message in a way that's most receptive to the audience. So if you're dealing with people like Sean Hannity, who are not compassionate, they're not empathetic, hit them with the fact that, okay, we have that, plus we also have the advantage of our way is more fiscally responsible. You need to tailor your message accordingly. Anyway, let's continue.
This is where I think the vast majority of Americans.
That's why I'm here.
Well, that's the point.
I'm here to bring us together.
And that was the point of the comprehensive reform. Where's Congress? I mean, look, you can criticize Biden all the time. Biden's border crisis. I watch 24/7, surround sound, anger machine around that. I get it.
Wait a minute. In 3 years,
I get it.
he will allow over 7.5 million people illegally into this country. Right. You have to see there's something wrong with that.
No, I do. And I see there's something right with what he's done post Title 42, a 70% reduction, taking a lot of the core tenets that the previous administration used. He's now being sued by the left, not just being applauded, certainly by the right. That said, here's what's missing. The conversation you just suggested we should be having around dealing with asylum seekers and backlogs and updating and modernizing our visas and addressing a pathway that Ronald Reagan himself acknowledged.
Let me ask you if you support
this. I think those things are missing.
Should we have background checks?
Yes.
Should, in the middle of a pandemic, health checks?
We did.
Should we have means testing so the people that enter this country are not going to be a financial burden on the American people?
We prioritize already with certain. We prioritize with STEM. We prioritize with visas already. We prioritize.
You're going to give
as well
a free
as essential
college
workforce.
education and $2.7 billion of taxpayer dollars in California to Medi-Cal.
And
that's for illegal immigrants only.
And we're spending the money already. I know everybody on the right can't stand sanctuary policy. I understand that. Rudy Giuliani, by the way, Trump's old attorney, was a huge proponent of sanctuary policy.
I didn't know that.
I'll also say real quick, and I don't want to spend much time on this because, again, we've got like 5 minutes, but I love the fact, if you notice, he's constantly referring to other Republicans that at either now or at one point Republicans deferred to, like Reagan, like Rudy Giuliani. I love that. That may not work, and he shouldn't spend like 7 hours on it, but I love those little asides. Hey, the stuff I'm advocating for, the people you worship also advocated for these things, which also adds to my credibility and the superiority of my message. I love that he's like throwing that out every now and then. Reagan liked this idea. Giuliani liked this idea. So
actually said it keeps you healthier, safer, and more educated. Actually made those arguments when he was governor, or rather mayor of New York. It's the cards that are dealt in the absence of comprehensive reform. I'm all for comprehensive reform. I'm for background checks. I'm for addressing border security in all its forms and manifestations, not just walls. I'm addressing a legal pathway. I'm actually wanting to address all these issues, but I want to do it in a rational way and not just bastardize the conversation as exclusively about the border.
Okay, I have here my pile of stuff, the exact federal law that prohibits. Now, there are two court decisions that you might be able to cite. One is the Trump lawsuit. That was in the Ninth Circuit. The other is some wording and one opinion that Justice Scalia gave some years back. But it is unambiguous when you read the 18 U.S. Code as it relates to entering the country that you've got to do so legally. By characterizing the state as sanctuary, aren't you thereby violating federal law, the laws that are on the books, and that our own Constitution states very unequivocally that, in fact, you should be following?
Sanctuary policies have been on the books for decades. Cities, Democratic cities, Republican-led cities in the past, Democratic states, clearly, more modern conception around dealing with reality, the cards that are dealt. You want people that are victims of crime to come forward and report those crimes. That's the purpose of sanctuary. You want a kid to be educated that's here, regardless of how they got here. You want that kid educated. You want to take care of someone that's in an emergency and not have them concerned that they're going to.
Sorry, so real quick, I just want to point this out too. Hannity asked a tough question there, and prima facie, Hannity is correct. It's kind of like when states choose not to enforce marijuana laws, they are technically, at least on the face of it, violating federal law against criminalizing marijuana. And so, in terms of just strict technical legalese, Hannity had Newsom here. But I like how Newsom responded, right? Because he didn't want to take the L, like, yeah, we're violating federal law, because that would be pretty hard for, because the federal government, Republican or Democrat, we often look the other way when certain states violate certain federal laws. But then when you have a governor of a state go, yeah, we're violating federal law, that would be very hard to ignore. So Newsom was very clever here. So he pivoted in a way, again, that remained relevant. He's like, listen, these things that you're complaining about, they've been on the books for decades. They have a purpose to them. Republican and Democratic states and cities and whatnot. And then he made again the moral argument and the efficacy argument. These people are here. It would be, say nothing of, again, the humanitarian part of it, the compassion, the empathy. It'd be logistically impossible to deport them. So what are they going to do while they're here? Well, we should educate them. We should provide healthcare, because not only is it fiscally responsible and it would make them better citizens, it's just also the right thing to do. Like I love that. Just, and he doesn't like scratch his head. He's not, he is so well prepared for this. Anything you want to add before we?
No, yeah, I think I mean, generally speaking, immigration just sort of drives me insane, because it's one of the best ways. It's one of the most positive drivers of a positive economy and growth for the GDP. And it's frustrating that people who care so much about fiscal responsibility, as we said before, talk so much shit about immigration, when that's one of the huge reasons why the U.S. leads the world in GDP growth, and why California has like the 5th largest economy in the
They're
world.
about to become, as he says later on in this interview, they're on track to become the 4th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Germany.
Yeah.
So actually, we do not have time to play any more of this. So we're gonna have to come back to this. But it's such a good interview, and Newsom in my opinion, it used to be Buttigieg who set the gold standard for debate performance. I think Newsom gave an even better. Now he needs to be iterative in this. He needs to consistently demonstrate it, like Buttigieg has. Right. But this is my go-to example, probably for the foreseeable future, of a sitting Democratic official just cleaning house, man, just cleaning house. Some comments here I want to play, or I want to point out. The GOPs are just fast-talking liars that throw out BS to confuse their base. I agree with that. Any issues with that, Stax?
Not one bit.
Arian Collin, the Rudy rework laptop. Fogg says the difference between Jim Jones and MAGA is Trump would charge $8 for the Kool-Aid and $2 for the souvenir cup. You're not wrong. And then Lisa Lopez says, I do hope Newsom runs in 2028. I think he would be great. I'll say, and I'll give you the last word on this. The ability to dunk on Republicans, I think, is important, but it's not the single most important attribute in a chief executive. So I certainly think this helps him. But he also, again, needs to demonstrate, when I have not looked too closely into this, how effective his policies have been in California as its chief executive, because there are very at least loud criticisms of Newsom's governorship that I just simply don't know enough about to refute.
Sure.
He makes a very stalwart defense of those policies in this interview. He also accepts criticism. He also comes out and says, with respect to the homelessness situation in California, he takes ownership for it. He's like, we're struggling with this. This is an issue that we have struggled to correct. I have made mistakes, and like that, there's a humility there too. But I will say, this inspires me. I would like to see this type of energy from President Biden, number one, but number two, for all other Democratic leaders in Congress, in the executive branch, governors, whatever. I want to see this sort of energy where they're fighting with facts and they're rejecting false premises, and they're doing it with a smile, but they're also not just taking it lying down. They're coming like, no, you're wrong on this. Here's blah, blah. So that's my opinion on it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are definitely criticisms of how Newsom has been handling California, but his administration, there are some really strong positives for him. As far as I'm aware, I think he has. I saw this headline a little while ago, and I should have looked more into it, but I think he's got, generally speaking, universal healthcare for Californians, and I know for sure that he has free school meals for all California children, and that's huge positives. I mean, we can go down the routes for not only how that's morally correct, but that's fiscally very responsible, that it actually brings a lot of, positives towards the economy to make sure that people are running smoothly and running correctly, and that people don't have to stress all that much about their kids being able to eat. And it brings, like, I hate going down that route, because it should just be like, oh, let's feed kids. But right. I'm arguing with like conservatives here who are like, oh, but does it make sense? And it's just, yeah, it does also do that.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, it's been great. Guys and gals, again, we're doing this every Sunday. We're trying to keep it to an hour and a half, 1 p.m. Eastern time, because Eastern is the best. No,
True.
I think is when we're going to be doing this on the regular. So please follow Stax on YouTube in particular. We don't care about TikTok. I mean, he's relevant on TikTok, so you can add him there if you have a TikTok. Definitely follow him on YouTube as well. A like and subscribe, a comment, please follow and subscribe and like my stuff, because my stuff it's not as pretty as Stax is, but it's certainly got more personality. He has a terrible personality. 100%.
I will say more. You definitely post more.
Well, listen, I take
quantity versus quality. You definitely have the quantity aspect.
Yes. If he can live,
I'll say nothing about the quality.
If he can live with gargoyle, so that's do you know that,
I don't know what that
Gavin's ex-girlfriend is Kimberly Guilfoyle?
I don't know who that is.
Yes, you do. She's married to like Don Jr. or Eric Trump. She's the crazy brunette who, I promise you, look up Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Oh, she looks familiar. Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gavin Newsom used to date her.
That's crazy.
I know. So Lisa,
she's Donald J. Trump Jr.'s wife, is what you're saying, or ex-wife?
I have no idea. She's either the girlfriend or wife of either Don Jr. or Eric, one of the two.
She's been the girlfriend of Donald Trump Jr.
Don Jr. There you go.
Jr.
So because her name is Guilfoyle, they call her Gargoyle.
I like it.
It's hilarious. All right, yeah. Please like, subscribe, follow, do everything. We appreciate you all being here. We will be back next Sunday for some great political commentary from me, and Stax will also be here.
Nice.
He voted for Jill Stein. He's terrible.
Fair.
Yeah.
Please continue to criticize me.
I will.
I know.
I will humiliate you.
That sounds ironic, but it's not.
No, I know. I
deserve the criticism.
Fog said, enjoy the show and everyone's conversation. Appreciate everyone. Great job. Yeah, everybody, we appreciate the comments and engagement. Again, we'll do this next Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. This is Stax and Josiah out. Peace.